It's been described as mankind's first truth, and other times our final madness. It was discovered in 2018 within the walls of an ancient settlement in southeastern Turkey known as Göbekli Tepe, and ever since its unveiling, it's had experts scratching their heads as to its purpose and origin. What is the Ringstone of Göbekli Tepe, and why should you care? Let us take a look at some of the theories that surround this strange discovery and why it has been called both the first truth and final madness of mankind. To understand what the Ringstone is, we need to take a brief look at Göbekli Tepe itself. The site consists of a series of circular enclosures built during the late Pleistocene and early Holocene, making it between 10,000 and 12,000 years old. This makes it the oldest known human settlement in the world. The settlement was likely a communal space for people from nearby settlements to come together and engage in religious rituals. Evidence of animal sacrifice has been found here, as have hundreds of animal bones. However, there doesn't seem to be any evidence of permanent habitation. Just an accumulation of artifacts and waste that tell us the story of how humans lived and behaved all those years ago. A large portion of the archaeological site consists of two giant T-shaped stones with intricate carvings along the sides. But it's a smaller structure within one of the enclosures that has really captured people's attention. In the southeast corner of enclosure D, a room was found measuring 4 by 6 meters. Within this room were 2 stone slabs set vertically into the ground and a circle of 20 smaller stones surrounding them. Archaeologists believe the 2 vertical slabs are some kind of doorway, but what they don't understand is what they were used for. In the center of the ring of stones was something else odd, a polished piece of rock that appears to fit perfectly into a gap between the vertical slabs. At first glance, it looks like a doorstop, but that's not quite right. Instead, the flat, oval-shaped object is actually a steatite stone that weighs about 16 kilograms. Steatite is a metamorphic rock primarily composed of talc, which can be smoothed and polished, making it useful for tools and weapons. Some archaeologists suggest that the polished surface of the stone may have been used to grind grain and produce flour. However, others point out that there is no evidence of storage or processing areas nearby and argue that such a primitive tool would have been too heavy to use. Others still claim that the stone may have been part of a loom used for weaving cloth. Again, though there's no supporting evidence for this theory, whatever the stone was used for, it's clear that it played an important role in the activities that took place within the enclosure. Unfortunately, we've yet to figure out exactly what that role was. That's where things get strange. You see, when German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt first excavated the area in 2018, he noticed something else peculiar. There seemed to be etchings on the top of the stone slab behind the steatite rock. To make sense of the markings, he turned the slab over and discovered more similar markings on the underside. He then realized that the patterns matched up, suggesting that the slabs were once joined together and formed a single panel. But that wasn't the only thing Schmidt discovered. Hidden beneath the dirt floor of the enclosure was a small fragment of obsidian. When he picked it up, he noticed that it had a shiny, glassy texture. Schmidt knew that obsidian is often used to make arrowheads because of its sharp edges. But when he examined the tip of the shard more closely, he saw that it had been deliberately blunted. Even after all these years, the tip of the shard was still razor sharp, but it had been covered in a layer of reddish-brown manganese dioxide, rendering it unusable as a projectile weapon. At first, Schmidt thought the discovery was pretty mundane. It just seemed to be another example of how humans used stone tools to hunt animals in the area. But as time went on, he began to think there might be something more to it. He noted that the obsidian shard had been deliberately broken into irregular shapes, seemingly at random. He also noticed that the angle of the shard relative to the wall was almost exactly the same as the sun's angle at noon on the summer solstice. Schmidt came to the conclusion that the room in enclosure D was used for astronomical observations. The 2 slabs forming the doorway were used as an observational platform, and the etched lines represented the constellations above. With this realization, Schmidt proposed that the entire site of Göbekli Tepe was an ancient observatory used to track celestial objects and predict eclipses and solstices. According to Schmidt, this would explain the presence of so many people at the site, as well as the animal bones and other artifacts. People would have gathered at Göbekli Tepe to observe the sky and make sacrifices to whatever gods they believed controlled the heavens. Schmidt even suggested that the T-shaped pillars could represent stars in the sky, while the rings of pillars could represent the sun and moon. While this theory was nothing short of revolutionary, the scientific community was understandably skeptical. After all, it suggested that humans had been capable of complex, abstract thought and religious practices 10,000 years earlier than previously believed. If Schmidt was correct, it would rewrite history and force experts to reconsider everything they knew about human evolution. Some argued that it was simply too big of a leap to say that humans had developed astronomical knowledge so early on, especially in a region that was home to some of the earliest known examples of abstract art. Others pointed out that the etchings on the stone panels looked more like simple geometric patterns than actual star charts. They argued that attributing them to anything other than decoration or ritualistic patterns was nothing more than reading too much into things. However, Schmidt stood firm on his theory, pointing out that there were dozens of similar shards of obsidian found at the site, each one carefully sharpened to a razor edge and then deliberately dulled. There were also several whole arrowheads found nearby, suggesting that the people who inhabited the area weren't entirely reliant on their obsidian tools. He therefore concluded that the obsidian must have had some other use, such as being used as a calendar or timekeeping device. Schmidt suggested that the flat edges of the blades could have been used as straight edges, allowing the user to measure the angles of stars against the horizon. This, combined with the markings on the ceiling, would have allowed the ancient observers to keep track of the movement of stars across the sky. Schmidt theorized that this knowledge was vital to the people who lived around Göbekli Tepe, as it allowed them to predict solstices and eclipses. These predictions could then be used to determine when it was safe to plant crops and when food needed to be harvested. Even if the fragments aren't star charts, as Schmidt suggested, they may still prove to be valuable tools for archaeologists looking to unlock the secrets of Göbekli Tepe. Researchers have recently announced that they will be using X-ray technology to examine the blade fragments without disturbing the site. This should allow them to get a better understanding of how the blades were made and used, potentially shedding new light on the settlement and its inhabitants. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about Göbekli Tepe, stay tuned for more updates. As more research is conducted, we hope to uncover more of the secrets surrounding this fascinating site and the mysterious ringstone that has captivated the attention of archaeologists around the world. Whether it's a primitive tool, a calendar, or even part of an ancient observatory, the ringstone is sure to continue confounding experts for years to come. And while we may never know exactly what it was used for, one thing is for sure. It's a reminder of just how little we understand about the world around us and the incredible ingenuity of our ancestors. Now, check out the biggest unsolved mystery in the world: the Voynich manuscript explained, or watch The Secret History of Alexandria's Lost Library.